it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualized, my asexual life. This is the baby for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button below right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find the content useful, helpful, insightful in any way, shape or form, or you just want to give this channel some love. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So today we're going to be discussing asexual difficulties in a highly sexualized world. Welcome to another episode of Asexualized, my asexual life, Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. Hello, Piyush. Lovely to see you. Thank you for the thumbs up, you beautiful soul. Thank you so much. So nice to have you back again. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be discussing. So if you didn't know, Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month is something that I founded in 2017 when I published this Asexual Perspectives book. And as always, every July, I read excerpts out of the book, and it's to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. So, yeah, today's topic is difficulties asexuals have in a highly sexualized world. I'm going to be doing some of the perspectives in here, and thanks to whoever gave me the second thumbs up. I love you lots. I appreciate you. Right, so this is Philippa Duke's story. Now, if you haven't read the book yet, Philippa's story is quite intense. It's the second story in the book. It's the first story after my own. And it's very intense. You can actually read it. If you go to Amazon, you can actually read my personal story and Philippa's for free because the book is that thick. Yes, that thick. That when you look at Amazon, the look inside bit, you can actually see a good proportion of the book for free. So my personal story at the beginning and also Philippa's. And Philippa's is very, very descriptive and quite... Well, you'll have to read it to see what I mean. But anyway, so in terms of this episode, how difficult is it for you to be asexual in a highly sexualized world? Well, I've put in a sexualized world, but it's highly sexualized world, isn't it? So this is Philippa's answer. It's easy as pie to be myself in general because I don't let cancerous people near me. I think it's easier for asexuals because we easily pass as straight. I mean, we're the closest sexuality to straight, and by not being with someone, people just assume you are straight singleton. It is a bit like walking through a minefield sometimes with all of the sexual madness I'm surrounded with. And that is when I take a step back from it all and get on with my own stuff. Now, yeah, I mean, it is assumed that, you know, unless you say otherwise, that asexuals are in fact heterosexual, right? And I did have a video on here a while ago saying, which is it worse, for an asexual to pretend they're heterosexual or for a heterosexual to pretend they are asexual, which is obviously quite a controversial topic. If you haven't seen that video, I do recommend searching in my video so you can see the full video rather than just hearing those words, which might make you a bit mad, you know. But basically, you know, on places like dating sites, there are people that are not asexual. Some of them are honest, a few of them are honest, and they admit they're not asexual, but some of them are misleading, and some scam and pretend they're asexual when they're not. So that is very, very, very deceiving, you know. Hi Tabitha, lots of love to you, nice to see you. And so yeah, and so that is very deceiving. And also, you know, asexuals do pretend to be heterosexual quite a lot as well. So, which, you know, I understand asexuals are doing it a lot of the time because they don't want to have ridicule, they don't want to, you know, be in a situation where it's frightening or fearful for them, you know. And I know some countries, they do frown upon asexuality to a point where it could get bad physically for them, you know. There could be abuse coming their way. But if you live in a country that's pretty, you know, like lenient, as it were, and pretty accepting or open-minded, for example, like a Western country, I very much think you should come out and be honest about your asexuality. And I definitely think you should be honest about it in a relationship. There's no two ways about it. You should be very, very upfront. If someone can't accept you for the sexual orientation you are, they are not your person. They are not your person, right? They just aren't. but there is a lot of people that I've come across that are asexual, specifically guys in my case, because I chat to guys a lot because obviously I'm interested in guys, that, you know, the asexual guys seem to have more of a problem about me being out asexual to the whole world than the sexual guys. Sexual guys don't seem to care if I'm asexual. They're like, whatever, let's snap a photograph together, who cares, right? But asexual guys, it's like, oh no, I couldn't be with you, Sandra, in a relationship, which is good. I'm glad they're honest with me, because, you know, I don't want people knowing I'm asexual, and I'm not going to hide that part of me. You know, when I'm on my channel and I do get into a relationship, I'm going to be proud to be with that guy who's going to be, no doubt, probably asexual. Tabitha, hey, dropped by to say hi because it's late. Oh yeah, won't be here long. Okay, no worries, Tabitha. Yeah, I mean, I usually start my stream between 11 and midnight usually, so I'm a little bit late. That's okay, Tabitha. You can watch it on the replay anyway. So yeah. So do you live in the UK, Tabitha? Because obviously it's late here. I don't know where you live. Right. So yeah. So I just going back to what Philippa said about a lot of people do think that asexuals are straight, heterosexual, unless they say otherwise, you know. But it's important, if you do get into a relationship, especially if it's not with another asexual, that you fully disclose, you know, your sexuality. It's fair on your partner. If you're going to keep your sexuality a secret, what else are you going to keep secret from them? It's not going to be great, is it? I'm going to watch this on replay. I live in the UK. Oh, you live in the UK, same as me. I didn't realise that, Tabitha. Maybe we'll meet one day. Who knows? Because I hold asexual meetups, as you know, in the UK. So Robin's story, we're on now, page 46. How difficult is it for you to be asexual in a sexualized world? It is very difficult for me, because there's basically sex everywhere, books, media, and in the form of sex jokes in real life. Even in children's shows, you get sexual innuendo that older audiences are supposed to appreciate. But it just makes me feel so betrayed by the show. It's because when you are searching for the rare forms of entertainment that have no mentions of sex at all, but all you end up getting is about sex, you end up hoping for the rare gem that you just happened to find to stay a rare gem. And that hope is what ultimately destroys you when that rare gem turns out to be not the rare gem. So I do know what they mean. And you know, it's very, very difficult, you know, because even I go to kids club, right? In the UK, kids club, you don't have to have a kid to go to kids club in the UK, and you can see films that have been on the big screen at full price for like £2.50 or £2.49, right? So I go to kids club, which I love, you know. I'm not interested in having kids of my own, but I actually get on really well with kids, but I'm usually laughing more than they are, because I'm the kid. Right. Oh, bye, Tabitha, if you need to go. See it on replay. Yes, honey. See you. I called you honey. Sometimes I call females honey, or people honey. I don't do it very often, but it's a form of endearment. Thank you so much for being here. So yeah, going back to what Robin said, yeah, so, you know, I go to kids club and I watch some kids movies, and there is sexual innuendo in those movies. And you're like thinking, come on, this is a certificate 12 or PG. Why does it have to have sexual innuendo? I'm trying to think of one of the movies I watched. Oh, what's the one? I'm trying to remember what it is. Oh, man. Angry Birds 2. Angry Birds 2. I managed to remember it. In Angry Birds 2, the second one of the series, you know, it's about one of the I think it's one of the owls is broody about having a kid, but you know, they're broody as in they want sex, you know. And it's like, come on, please, it's an Angry Birds 2 movie. I want to get away from sex. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not into having kids anyway, so it's kind of like, ugh, do I really have to watch this? And there's a few bits of sexual innuendo there to do with like giving birth and having sex, and it's like, really? Angry Birds 2, why is it necessary to have that in it? Why? You know what I mean? And it can get a bit frustrating in that respect. I mean, I have to say though, you know, kids' movies in general, you know, it's some of it's getting really hardcore. I mean, there's some really upsetting storylines in some of them. You know, like I went to see one, theme park one. I did a review about that because I review no sex movies, so I review films with no sex in them, but some of them do mention sex. you know, I talk about that, but usually the films I see don't have sex in them, so I try and always watch no sex movies. Piyush, good night. I should go as well. I'll definitely watch this later on. Have a great time. Okay, Piyush. Night night. So thanks for tuning in. Yeah, catch the replay. So yeah, I think it's very, very annoying, you know, when they do like really hard hitting storylines, and it's like, come on, this is for kids, you know. Like, one of them was talking about the mother's meant to have had cancer or something and gone away for cancer treatment. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go to the cinema and watch stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's bizarre, very bizarre the way the world is sometimes. So that was Robin's story. So if we're going on to the next story, this is Kenneth's story. So Kenneth, yes, let's have a look at Kenneth's. Now, Kenneth is very, very interesting. How difficult is it for you to be asexual in a sexualized world? It really only becomes a problem when the assumption that I also love sex becomes too much. I don't like watching sex scenes in movies, but I make sex jokes, talk about sexual things, and don't care if my friends tell me what sexual things they do with their partners. It would be much, much more difficult if I couldn't deal with those things. It makes it much harder for me to find a date and sometimes to relate to people. I also get bored of certain movies or shows when it becomes too clear that the plot is the characters have sex. Yeah. Since I don't feel sexual attraction, I can't relate when my friends point out someone they think is sexy. I also have problems explaining that when I had a crush on a guy, I did not want to have sex, even though I found him attractive. Being asexual often makes me feel like an outsider, like everyone else speaks this language that I do not. I also had trouble telling my ex that he had done nothing to turn me off to the idea of sex, since we were each other's first for many things. It became an issue when I had a crush on a guy. I told our mutual friend, who, while a great guy, quickly assumed it meant I desired sex. His advice was also often to do something sexual. I feel it was probably also confusing for my crush when he came onto me and I turned him down. He stopped what he was doing and was very decent, which was great. He apologized for assuming he was going to get laid, his words, and that he thought that it went with me admitting to liking him. I don't have too much trouble knowing there's a connection between the two, but I do wish they weren't assumed to be the same thing. Advertising that plays on sex is also kind of funny to me. I know they're trying to use someone sexy to boost their product, as well as language or music. But it doesn't get me. I either lose interest because I don't care about the people, or try to figure out what is actually being sold and what it does. So I think there's a lot of great stuff in there, right? Because me personally, I can make sex jokes despite being asexual, because I feel removed of the situation. I kind of like to shock people sometimes with unexpected things I can come out with. They're like, I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth, you know? And I remember once I was out with people from work and I was saying more stuff than they were, and they were shocked, you know, because I don't like being put in a box, you know? I like to be free. And it's like, you know, and I'm completely removed of the situation, so it doesn't affect me, you know? But I don't want sex. But, you know, I don't mind people talking about sex. So I'm personally sex repulsed for me, but I'm not sex repulsed for other people. So the majority of the time I can hack most things, but it depends what it is, you know. If someone's saying really gross stuff and they're saying it a lot, then it does freak me out and make me feel a bit sick after a while, you know. So it depends on what they're saying and how often, how much they're saying and talking about sex, you know. And I do think, you know, like it really only becomes a problem where the assumption that I also love sex becomes too much. I think, you know, that's the thing, you know, with me, I don't want sex myself. I'm not thinking it's wrong for other people to have sex. If they want it, is consensual and they love it, go for gold, you know? I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem is people pushing the idea that you have to have sex in order to have love, in order to be happy, in order to be healthy in a relationship. That's what I really hate the most, personally. That's what I find is the worst, you know? Why judge love or happiness on health about the amount of sex you do or do not have? To me, that's absolutely ludicrous. You know, you can have a healthy food to make you healthy. You can work on your mindset to be more healthy. Do you know what I mean? Mindset is everything. You know, so there's a lot of things you can do to be healthy that doesn't involve sex. And, you know, and I, despite being asexual, can think some people are sexy. Normally I say the word asexy, mean I find them very, very super attractive. And if I was sexually attracted to someone, I'd find them sexually attractive. But as I don't, they're asexy because of absence of sexual attraction, if that makes any sense to you. I can think a guy looks hot, but it's usually to do with his face. I get attracted to a guy's face, not below the waist, his face and his shoulders the most. So, you know, for me, that's what really, like, if you want to use sexual language, turns me on is his face, but not to have sex, to kiss him, because I love kissing, you know. And I do really, really understand this, that being asexual often makes you feel like an outsider. You know, it really can make you feel like an outsider because, you know, I mean, when I was at school, the people there, they were like, oh, this is not for your ears. Like I was some sort of really innocent person that didn't have a clue what they were talking about, that I wasn't like not just an innocent person, but I wasn't advanced enough, you know, I wasn't intelligent enough to work out what they were talking about. And I felt it's so patronizing. It's like I've probably done more stuff than you've even done in your little finger, mate. Seems I started having heterosexual relationships when I was 6 years old. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it really used to annoy me. And I think, you know, that's, I mean, when you say to a guy, a sexual guy, that you're interested in him, they automatically think that means you want to have sex with them, which it doesn't. It really doesn't. And most guys, you know, that I meet that want sex with me, you know, that's all they are, either that's all they want, or if they're having a relationship, they would want that in it. You know, I'm not interested in that. And I think it's interesting they say about the advertising that plays on sex. It's also kind of funny to me. I know they're trying to use someone sexy to boost their product as well as language or music, but it doesn't get me. And I do think asexuals' minds works differently. I think that we don't see the world like everyone else sees it. I think we see it somewhat different. So certain things don't work on it. I've noticed a load of people in the asexual community are not even that into having relationships. You know, even the ones that want relationships, a lot of the time, they're not actively pursuing them. So it's a bit sad that it seems like if sex is not involved in a relationship, then it's not worth pursuing, because it's like, oh, well, you know, like if I get someone, I get someone. If I don't, I don't. But for me, I would really, really love to find the right asexual guy for me. It's very important for me. You know, it's an important thing I would like to do in my life at some point, you know? And so, you know, I will persist and that. And I like a guy to pursue me. Just because I'm asexual doesn't mean to say I don't like a guy to pursue me. And that's the thing, you see, if you're asexual, lots of like people don't pursue. You know, it's like, oh, well, if I get someone, I get someone. If I don't, I don't. I mean, it's not really a very great attitude to have if you are in the minority anyway. Because if you're in the minority and you all have, like, the majority of the minority have that attitude, then it's kind of like the people that seriously want a relationship, it's a lot harder to find someone. Thank you for the thumbs up. Lots of love. You know, it's a lot harder to find someone. You know, and I know it's not just me that experiences this. There's my best friend Sam's experienced it. There's other people that experience it. One of the guys on ASAP that I'm talking to, he said that he's enjoying chatting to me, that we're not suitable romantically, you know, relationship wise, but they are actually part Indian and they're really nice to talk to. And they said they're enjoying the chat with me because when they speak to me, it's flowing conversation. Whereas they've spoken to some other people and they message for a while and then they just stop. You know, and I think that's sad. relationships aren't about sex, and if asexuals really want to find someone for a relationship, they should be looking more at other asexuals, even in my own dating groups. I'm like, how's asexual dating going? And when I talk about dating, they seem to think I'm talking about like going out on dating sites that are not asexual. And I'm like, well, they're like, oh, it's going to be pretty much impossible to find someone. I'm like, well, this is a dating group for asexuals. They're dating sites for asexuals. Why aren't you going and talking to these people on these sites? What most people are not prepared to do, they're not prepared to travel or move for a relationship. Or find someone who is. That's another major problem. It's like, oh, there's no one in my area. I know asexuals in my city. They're not suitable for a relationship with me, but I still know two. And I know one not that far away on the bus journey. But again, not suitable for me. And there's another person who's my friend who's got an asexual fiance. He travels to see her. He lives not far from me, actually, but not in my city anymore, And so there are people that are asexual that do want relationships, but they are few and far between the ones that pursue, persist, and consist. Because with any relationship, choose whatever sexual orientation you are, you have to look for consistency, persistency, and someone wanting you in their life consistently. Not just, oh, I'm going to message you for a few days a week and then you're not going to hear from me for another week. If you really want a relationship and you really like someone a lot, you need to be persisting and being consistent with them. It should get to a point where you're messaging more and more and more if you really like someone, not less and less and less. And one thing that I really appreciate if someone's messaging me is them just saying, I've got to go now. I know that's not always possible. If you're working, sometimes you just, your boss is there and you've got to go. Or, but in general, if someone's having a flowing conversation, I like them to kind of if it's a flowing backwards and forwards conversation, in the moment, then it's good if you say, oh, I'll get back to you later. But obviously I have lots of conversations via Messenger where I get back to them when I can, they get back to me when they can. But there's going to be some points where we're having a flowing conversation as well, because that's healthy, especially if you're thinking about a relationship, a serious relationship, so that's what I found about the sexualized world we live in. Is that it's, the outside world talks so much about sex and puts a lot of prominence on that. But most people that are looking for a relationship in the larger world are sexual, and sex seems a big motivator and driver for getting into a relationship, right? But I would love to see that passion, that drive, that ambition for a relationship within the asexual community more. Why should the sexuals just be like that? It's not good, in my opinion. There needs to be more asexuals, like speaking to other asexuals, on asexual dating sites, on ASAP, messaging each other, emailing each other, friending each other on Facebook, and having proper conversations together. You only get one life. It's very important that you find the right person for you. And as you know, it's a lot easier to be with another asexual person in the main, because you're going to have more things in common usually, and you're going to hopefully have similar needs. Although it is harder, again, because there's loads of nuances to asexuality. But don't give up. Don't give up. Right. So we are going to move on now to the next story. This is Callie's story. So how difficult is it for you to be asexual in a highly sexualized world? I've been exceedingly lucky, actually. Even before I was ace, I never seemed to gravitate to the type of people as friends who were particularly sexual / sex obsessed. So the fact that I wasn't into that was never a big deal. And most of the people in my close circle of friends nowadays know about my asexuality and are completely fine with it. So, yeah, I mean, everyone pretty much knows I'm asexual. Like, my family does, cousins do, as far as I know, friends do, and like, I'm all over the place about being asexual. I don't hide it. In my old job, I used to pretty much tell everyone in the locker room and the staff room. I was very proud to be asexual, it's very, very proud thing, I really want to get it recognized globally, it's a big mission. And with me, though, I attract usually the very highly sexualized guys. the ones that want sex a lot. And also for me, I've had friends that, you know, they're all, some of them are not like overly, you know, they're not really sex mad, but they all like sex, usually the women that I've known, for example. And you know, I'm not interested in women, I'm just telling you about the women friends I've had in my life, you know. And you know, one of the people I used to be friends with, I mean, she used to like really love sex. Like she used to be like wanting it regularly all the time, several times in a row. So, you know, I do think it's important to break the stereotype though in the world that, you know, just because you're female, you can't want sex as much as a guy. Because I think that's very damaging, you know. Thanks for the thumbs up. I think that's a very damaging thing, you know. I don't think it should be the case that, you know, if you are someone who likes sex or wants it or needs it, and you, for example, if you're not asexual or you're sex positive asexual, I don't think there should be any stereotype where it's, you know, like they tend to label women tarts or hoes or whores. Do you know what I mean? If they want to go around having a lot of sex. But if a guy wants to go around having a lot of sex, well, he just gets a pat on the back usually. You know what I mean? There's still gender inequality there. So I think if the females do want sex, I think there should be, you know, there shouldn't be the stigma about it, you know. Just because I'm asexual doesn't mean to say I don't think there should be more equality in the world in for other sexualities as well. And I think that's very important, you know. There's women that out there that do have like really strong appetites for sex. And, you know, I don't think they should be getting a bad reputation when guys don't. Guys can tend to sleep with as many women as they feel like, and women are the ones that get a load of abuse for it. You know what I mean? If they do the same thing. So I think it's very important to have equality. Wolf of Fire, I agree with you. Thank you, Wolf of Fire. You know, I think it's, you know, I think it's as well, it should help people to be more confident, you know. Like, you know, if a woman's gonna have sex, you know, I think they should be empowered to do that. They should be in a position where they feel strong and comfortable and can tell the guy what they want to do, and they should be more in control of the situation. I think, you know, like giving the impression to women that, oh, they shouldn't want it, or that, you know, they're going to be called some horrible names because they having it, it kind of like belittles women, I think. And it kind of like you know, it kind of crushes them, and it kind of like makes them be more subservient, I think, to guys. And I don't like that, you know. I think it's more dangerous to be in that position. I think it's better if women are more stronger and powerful in terms of having sex if they want it and like it, you know. Because I think, you know, otherwise it's damaging them when it shouldn't be, you know. Women have just as much right to have as much sex as they want as guys do. They should be, you know, the people that want that should be empowered to be okay with it, you know. If I do kissing, for example, because I'm not interested in sex, because I'm asexual, and personally for me, I'm not into sex, even though I've had it in the past, you know. I like to be on top of the guy kissing him quite a lot. I like that. I'm quite strong and powerful in that way. And I even prefer the table turn where like the guy's against the wall. I don't know how much experience you've got sexually, but I have quite a bit because of my past. And even the guys I've dated, you know, more recently, and like last year, year before, right, and particularly last year. So, you know, I was in a short-term relationship last year, if you follow my channel, and short-term, he wasn't asexual, wasn't right for me. But, you know, some guys, but I've even found it in clubs, some guys, they, you know, they can put a woman against the wall to kiss them, right? I personally don't like that. I feel trapped. So I prefer the guy to be against the wall and me snogging him in that way, you know? So I think it's very important to break all these stereotypes of what women are supposed to do, what guys are supposed to do, you know, in that way. And I think, you know, it's better to have a woman in a more stronger, confident position sexually than it is to make her feel like she's doing something wrong, because then it's kind of like she's got less power in that dynamic, and you don't want to be in that position. Sex can be you know, for the people that love sex, it can be a good thing, but it's also can be quite dangerous, especially if it's someone you don't know very well, right? So you want to be in a position of empowerment. You want to be in a position of feeling strong, not feeling like you're, you know, like you're doing something wrong, you're a bad person because of it. Do you know what I mean? It's not right, and it's not helpful to those involved, you know? So I think, you know, people should be empowered to be who they are, and they should be strong in and of their own right, whether they love just kissing, whether they love doing sexual stuff or not, you know, or even, you know, like in the relationship dynamic. I mean, personally, I will never be subservient to a guy. I don't like marriage, you know, and that's because a lot of the time as well, you know, the woman still class as being subservient to the guy. It's like, I'm not doing that. You know, I've got my own life to lead. I've got my own legacy to lead. I don't want to be like that. You know, guys don't like being told what to do a lot of the time. So why should women? You know, so I think it's very, very important that whatever type of relationship you get into, that you are super strong in it, in of your own right, and you know you are just as entitled to be strong in whatever way you need to be, you know, and you shouldn't have to like think that you're any less of a person just because of your gender. I think it's ridiculous. And so, you know, be who you are and be strong in yourself, you know. And so yeah, I think it's very, very important. What was I saying? Yeah, I mean, so in terms of my friends, you know, most of the friends I have, if we're going back to this story, most of the friends I've had have been, you know, like later on in my life, particularly, have been intersex, you know. But really, the person that I know that's intersex the most is my best friend's other best friend. I got best female friend and their other best friend. They are a sexual cougar. So they're in their 60s, I believe, and they have sex with guys in their 20s, you know, but they are known for it. They are proud of it. They've had their children that I think, I don't know if they were married before. They've had their kids are grown up now. And so all they want to do is have fun. They don't want a relationship. They don't want to be, you know, tied to any bloke. They just like having sex. And, you know, she's very proud of that, and she doesn't mind saying it to the world. Sometimes it's not always appropriate the way she says it, but you know what I mean. I have great respect for someone who actually doesn't pretend to be something they're not, and actually is fully themselves, you know, and are fully alive in their own aura, whatever orientation they are, you know. I think it's very, very important to be true to who you are, you know. I mean, her friend, you know, I do get on well with her friend as well. Sometimes her friend has been said a bit too much sexual stuff. Well, they both have when they've been having a conversation together. So now I'm kind of like, okay, this feels a bit sick now. I'm off to dance, you know, and just leave them to carry on chatting because, you know, they're not asexual. I am, you know, just because I'm asexual, it doesn't mean to say I think everyone else should be. I think people who are asexual should be proud to be asexual, but the people who are not asexual, I think they're perfectly valid as well, you know? And I think, you know, it's hard for asexuals when the world is very sexualized. But I said in a previous show, you know, that you have the option to switch things off. You can choose not to watch the TV. You can choose not to watch movies. You can choose what movies you watch. You can choose what TV programs you watch. You can choose, you know, like to not go and look at sculptures and paintings. Like I'm nudity repulsed, so I don't like looking at paintings with nudity in them. If I go to an art gallery, then yeah, it's usually got it there. So I've kind of got to understand that it's going to have it there. I don't go very often to those, but the History Museum in my city, which is actually free to go around, has got a little art bit. And, you know, and at one point in there, when I went there once, there was like pictures with all naked women, you know, and it's like, really? Do you really have to do this? I'm really not interested in seeing a naked body. I know some people think that's art. I personally don't, because I think people look far better covered up. That's my personal opinion. So yeah, that's, you know, but I don't watch the TV. I haven't watched the TV since March the 19th, when I last saw my parents round at their place, you know. I don't put it on. I've got it on my Blu-ray channel. I've got it on the HDMI cable. So it just goes on there, black blank screen until I pick my movie, you know. So for me personally, you know, living in a highly sexualized world, I think is very, very difficult if you're looking for a relationship. That's what I believe. If you're looking for a relationship, it's very, very difficult because, you know, most people do want sex and they expect it in a relationship. Most people are, you know, the majority of people that I come across, probably because of the places I go to, like nightclubs, they're wanting sex. They don't want a relationship. They just want the sex. I mean, if you like that type of thing, there's nothing, and it's consensual and you're wearing protection, particularly because you don't want a sexually transmitted disease. And if people are not going to hurt each other, then that, and it's both consensual and you all love that, that's great. But I'm not into that, I'm into the dancing at the club. I love dancing, and I'm into just the music and having fun and the kissing as well, But it's very difficult. That bit is very difficult when you are, asexual, because most people associate, like the fact if I do some sexy dancing, for example, they automatically think I want sex. It's like, no, I just want to express myself. I'm a sexy girl, so why not just express myself in that moment, And that's another thing, being in a highly sexualized world. Some people just think because you dress sexily or you happen to be sexy that you want sex. And again, that's a really bad myth and stereotype that we need to bust through. Just because someone likes looking like that or looks like that or acts like that doesn't mean to say they do want sex, That's why people should be asking, not assuming if someone wants sex. It should all be consensual. Just because someone's like acting sexy doesn't mean to say they actually want the sex. And I think that needs to change in society. Everyone should be asking. I was pleased like a couple of years ago when I dated a heterosexual guy. I only had like a date night with him because he smoked and it made my chest really bad. I could never date a smoker again. But he did ask to kiss me. He didn't just go in to kiss me. He asked me, I'll kiss you, So that was really nice. The kissing was consensual as well, which I think is very important, especially if you're asexual, because for asexuals, our intimacy can be kissing, right? And so just like someone should always ask if they can have sex with you, if they want to, they should ask that, not expect it. People should also really ask to kiss as well, or, what I mean? Mind you, in clubs, they don't really ask. They just come forward and then basically look at you as much, do you want to kiss? And I'm kind of used to that by now. But I thought it was nice when I went on the date to not assume and just ask. I thought that was good. So I think it's very important, if you are asexual, to explain to someone new what asexuality is and what it means, And if people don't like you for who you are, don't be in that relationship. You don't want to be living your whole life, 10, 15, 20, 50 years of having to do stuff you don't want to do. If you don't want sex, then don't do it. If you want to be in a relationship which is sex free and you're with people who are highly sexual, that's not going to work out. Don't even bother going there, right? It's better to be single and safe and happy than it is to push yourself into doing something that you don't want to do that feels like it's abusing your own body. Because for some asexuals, it can't feel like that. For some asexuals that are not into sex, it can feel like they're abusing themselves, or it can feel like so anxiety inducing if you're not feeling that way inclined. Do you know what I mean? So look after yourself. You should be looking after yourself first and foremost. That's the most important thing. So I think being in the highly sexualized world, the things that I think are most difficult is trying to find someone for a relationship, romantic relationship especially, because most people associate romance with sex, just like people associate love with sex. They don't separate the two. I even had a guy in a entrepreneur dating group, that said sex and romance is the same thing. I thought, well, obviously that's why he's single then, if he thinks that, because they're not the same thing. I don't think there's anything romantic about having sex. It's just one person's genitals in another. You could do other things to make the environment romantic, leading up to it romantic, but I don't feel there's anything romantic about the act of sexual intercourse in and of itself. There's nothing romantic about it. There just isn't. Not in my experience. And so, it's the things that would lead up to it, and other stuff that you might do, but not that. If just, for example, if you were having love songs while you were doing that, if you were having candles and scents, if you were sprinkling all the bed with little confetti love hearts, for example, if you're writing little notes to each other, romantic notes to each other before that, that type of thing. But the actual act of intercourse itself, I don't think there's anything romantic about it whatsoever. I really don't. You know what I mean? There could be some sensual stuff, I suppose if someone finds sensual stuff romantic, it might be different. But yeah, so I think, for me personally, like, because I live in my own world and I shut off, I don't have the TV on, I don't read books within sex in them unless I have to do some research. I might go onto the internet and do some research, because obviously I'm writing the Asexual Guide to Sex book, so if I need to know some stuff that I don't know already, I might look stuff off on the internet, and I've got to be careful with that, because after a while it can get a bit too sickly for me. But I'll only go to look at that stuff if I need to look at it for what I need at the time, like research purposes, books, that type of thing, or some knowledge I'd rather know than not know, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's better to know about sex stuff than to not, if you're going to be around sexuals. It's very, very important, so you know what the heck they're talking about, because sexuals can sometimes speak a very foreign language, and I relate to the fact of feeling alien as well, like you can feel very alien in this highly sexualized world, because it's like people do speak a different language, they think differently. We're very different to sexuals, the way we speak, the way we think, the way we feel. Even in my Asexual Guide to Sex book that's going to be published this year, the different perspectives of asexuals. If you compare the mind of how asexuals think to how sexuals think about sex, it's completely different. You'll see in the book that it's just so insightful how asexuals think differently, even if they are having sex. They just think very differently to sexuals, And so it's very, very powerful book, very insightful, because it's real life asexual sex stories, and you get into the minds of the people that really have had sex, they're asexual, and it's like, wow, this is kind of like a very interesting experience. Whenever I'm reading their stories, I literally get into the minds of the person who I'm reading, and it's kind of like really like you're in their shoes. It's kind of like weird, because your emotions like go with the flow of whatever story you're reading. So there's a lot of different stories in that book telling all different positive and negative stuff about sex, so it's very, very interesting, very insightful. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that out this year. It'll be really good, really good. I still got a few stories to work on, not many more. But yes, and then my own, I've got to finish doing my bit of the book. I've left mine purposely till last, so I can do my bit, and I can fit anything else and that I might have left out. But yeah, so, some asexuals don't get so bothered about living in a highly sexualized world, because they just concentrate and focus on doing their own thing, and kind of leave the world as it is to itself. And other asexuals get really affected by it, because obviously all this, the sex stuff in the media, the newspapers, the magazines, the films, it's kind of like, can you not give it a rest? Like the person was saying in the book, that even children's movies have sexual connotations, innuendos in them. It's kind of like, can you not just give it a rest, please? I love it when there's films with no sex, and personally, because I'm romantic, I love it when there's kissing but no sex. Just like they really want to spend time together, talking, dancing, and kissing. I watch lots of dance movies like over and over again. And when they kiss, I'm like, oh, they've kissed. I don't feel bad that I haven't got someone. I'd like a guy to kiss, but I don't feel bad that I haven't got them. I'm just pleased with the characters, And so it's like, yeah. So I think there's a lot of benefits to being asexual as well in a highly sexualized world, is the fact that we can see the world in a completely different way than anyone else can ever see it. We have this great insightfulness where we can separate different types of attractions, which sexuals can't usually do, where we can see like there's more other things that are more important in a relationship than sex. We can see how a relationship would work without sex, and we can be without sex. I mean, just imagine that there's people in the world that are not asexual that can't have sex. They might have a disability, or they might be purposely refraining from having sex, or they might be impotent. But the people that are impotent, for example, have got a disability, they can't have sex. They deserve love just as much as anyone else. So it might be that an asexual could be with one of those people, but obviously they don't think like we do, because they still get the sexual urges, they still experience sexual attraction, so they could have sexual frustration. So you've got to be careful of that for your own, your own health and safety, as it were. But they're some people in groups, that I've been in that are not asexual groups, for example, on Facebook, they're like, oh, you don't want sex in a relationship. Like, well, why would you want a relationship? But just think of all the people that have got disabilities or are impotent or got illnesses or disabilities that prevent them from having sex. Hello, Megan. Lovely to see you. Lovely. I love the smiley face. Thank you so much. Just think of all the people with that can't have sex for whatever reason, even though they're not asexual. They deserve love just as much as anyone else does. Megan, very right. I agree. Thank you, Megan. It upsets me when I go in Facebook groups and I hear them saying stuff like that, about the fact that, oh, well, you don't want sex, why do you want a relationship? But there's bound to be people, thanks for the thumbs up, there's bound to be people in these groups that have probably got disabilities or have got impotency, or there's some problem they've got which means they can't actually have sex. And what about those people? Don't they deserve love? Of course they do. But heterosexuals tend to just think very single-mindedly when it comes to sex. It's like every person should be having sex. They don't think about, obviously to them asexuality is quite weird and strange a lot of the time if they haven't heard of it before. But they don't consider that there's people with disabilities or they're impotent that can't have sex. What about all those people? Don't they deserve a relationship without sex and still deserve love? Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes they can be very selfish when they're doing their dating in the dating groups, not thinking that there's people in the groups that probably more just, I'm coming out as asexual, but there's probably a lot more people in these groups that are not necessarily asexual. I've found some. I usually always find some, one or two asexuals, but they're not usually the right person for me to be in a relationship with, though. And it's kind of like, why should a relationship with sex in it be any more important than a relationship without sex? Who decides that a relationship has to have sex involved in it to be a relationship? Sexuals. Why? Because they're sexual. I mean, that's why they say it. Like, no one made them God. No one, put them in power and said, oh, well, their advice is, and opinion is right on this. Do you know what I mean? If someone doesn't want or need sex, then it's not good for them, And the people that want it, that can't actually have it, what happens to those people? I found some forums somewhere, I can't even remember where it was, and there was women discussing they've been with guys who are impotent. I think it was something I was looking up about impotency, and I found the forums where they were discussing it. And there was a lot of women actually that were saying, oh, I can't be with this guy because he's impotent, and and I think women have as much right to have sex just as men do if that's what they want, But I just think it's sad when they're like, they're like, oh, I don't want this guy because he's impotent, I mean, what happens to all those people? Megan, like, people that are handicapped probably will have a hard time dealing with certain things because they could get hurt or it's a bad decision based on their condition, like being paralyzed. I agree, Megan. I agree. There are people with disabilities. Sometimes they're unseen disabilities, and sometimes they're in a wheelchair and obvious, but it's I know you agree. It's like, they deserve love just as much as anyone else. And I think it's very, very, unaccepting, and they don't think about what they're saying. So if I come into a group, right, saying I'm asexual, don't want sex, so some of them laugh at me and stuff like that. I mean, I can just deal with it because I'm used to that, but it's still not nice. And just imagine all the people that go into these groups and that they, the ones that can't have sex, that are silent about it. You know what I mean? It's like not good. It's not good, and like Megan said, some can be paralyzed. Some just might not have feeling down there, or some might be in pain. Like, I have fibromyalgia, and a lot of females have fibromyalgia more than men, and a lot of people with fibromyalgia can't actually have sex because it's too painful a lot of the time. So I found out I was asexual before I was because I do get pain in that area, but I found out I was asexual before I found out I got more pain in that area. So yeah, it wouldn't be great for me to have sex anyway these days, but as it probably hurt too much. But I always think think that if there's a will, there's a way, but I don't have the will in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's ways of doing everything, probably not that often, but I think there's still ways of doing it if you want it, but I just don't want it. So I think, it's just a bit sad when the highly sexualized world we live in is very unaccepting to people that are different to them. I think that's one of the main things that I find is it's hard living in the highly sexualized world is the they're not open-minded. Quite a few people, they live in their sexualized world and that's all they see, and anyone who doesn't fit into that is laughed at or ridiculed or made to feel like there's something wrong with them. Someone the other day said, "Oh, you're delusional." After I've written my post, I just didn't reply to them. Thanks for the thumbs up. I'm not going to bother replying to stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking, actually, I'm not the delusional one. If you can't accept something's different to you just because you can't accept it, then, and you're not listening and you're not paying attention to other sexual orientations, then you're the one under an illusion, not me. Do you know what I mean? And so, you do get a lot of stick. But I mean, I will continue to say that I'm asexual in groups because I want to spread awareness of asexuality, And when you're in Facebook dating groups, I run 3 asexual dating groups myself, but some of the dating groups I in are not for asexuals, but I still like to spread awareness of asexuality while I'm there. I think if someone reads that post and one person just finds out they're asexual and didn't realise, it's going to help them a lot because there are people in these groups that are asexual. I mean, I did meet 2 of them in the entrepreneur dating group the other day. One guy said he's on the asexual spectrum. He said he understands asexuality quite well and he can work around it. So if he wants to do sexual stuff, he knows ways around things, And he said that he's on the autistic spectrum, but even though he's on the autistic spectrum, he can still do sexual stuff, because this was another thing that came up in this group. They're like, oh yeah, asexuality, I know what that is because I know autistic people that can't have sex. And I'm like, I have to make this perfectly clear right here and now. Not everyone who's asexual is autistic. And some people that are autistic aren't asexual. People that think that every person who's asexual is autistic, or they're thinking that if you're autistic, you're asexual. That's not true. Megan, yeah. And sometimes from allos I spoke to, they think the world isn't so sexualized and that I was just acting out. Oh, that's horrible, Megan. That's horrible. Yeah, I do know though that they don't see what we see, because I mean I don't like anything to do with like the body naked and stuff, and I know some asexuals don't mind the naked body, but to me it's like, oh, I just don't want to see that. It's no need for it. It's not necessary, And I really understand you, Megan, because they don't, because they are sexual. To them, the world's normal because that's what they want. That's the way they think. They just are comfortable with the sexualized world because they think like that. They are like that. That's kind of like their landscape. It's a bit like you go out in the morning and you've got grass and you go to sleep and you wake up and it's still grass there. It's like normal for them to see that, But when you are very different, say that you are, I don't know, say you are a carrot, and probably a bad analogy because you could say it's a sexual analogy, but say you're this great big orange carrot in the middle of green grass, you'd show up quite a lot, wouldn't you, for being different? And I didn't mean that sexually, but if sexuals are listening, they probably will take it that way. And it's really like, it's kind of like, we have to live in this world. We have to kind of understand sexuals, but what about them understanding us? It would be nice to get that back. I think it'd be nice for them to understand us. And I think sexuals need to understand different sexualities because this is the 21st century we live in now. It's not like the olden days where there's only one sexuality and two genders. You know what I mean? It's no longer is it just heterosexuality and women and men. It's never just been that, but that's been the general rule of thumb for a long time, that people like to put people in boxes that way, right? But we're in the 21st century now where there's a lot more open-mindedness and a lot more people being open about their sexuality. There's a lot more gays and lesbians, for example, that have come out and stuff like that, you know. And it's like we're living in the 21st century. So if these sexuals are on dating sites and stuff, and they are literally not even asking what someone's sexual orientation is, then that's going to be a big factor in why they're not doing so well in dating and relationships, because they're assuming that everyone's the same as them, right? If they're talking to a female who's a lesbian, they ain't going to get anywhere with her, are they? Unless she just happens to desire sex so much she doesn't care who she does it with, because she experiences sexual desire really highly rather than just sexual attraction. Because there can be a few women that have sex with men, there can be men that have sex with men and they're not gay. Apparently this is a thing they do. Even one of the guys I dated, heterosexual guys they dated, they said, oh, you do realise some men are not gay, but they do have sex with other men just because they want the sex and they need it so badly. I'm like, yes, I have heard of that. For me, it's quite strange concept, but, you know, I know it goes on, so I just like, okay, I just accept it goes on, you know. But, you know, I think sexuals don't understand, because to them it's like normal. It can be like, oh, you're overreacting, and it's like, well, no, I'm not overreacting. It's because it's like I'm reacting to the fact I don't like it, because it's not normal for me and I'm not comfortable with it, you know. So I think, you know, like you say, Megan, there's a lack of understanding there. There's a lack of, you know, putting themselves in our shoes. You know, we have to put ourselves in sexual shoes quite a bit, I think, with the world we live in. We're kind of pushed into that box. Whereas I think the opposite way around, you know, they just feel uncomfortable with the idea of someone not liking sex, which they think is a basic need or a base need. That's something else that really annoys me. Oh, why don't you like the base need? Or why don't you like the basic need? Like, why are you trying to stop yourself from wanting that? It's like, I'm not trying to stop myself from wanting sex. I just don't want it. You know, it's like they can't seem to comprehend this in their mind. But like I said, it's the 21st century. They need to wake up to the fact there's multiple genders, multiple sexual orientations. And if they're going to want to be in a relationship with another sexual person, they need to be asking respectfully what that person's sexual orientation is and accept that and find out about it if they're interested. If they're like, no, I just want a heterosexual person, that's all I want, then off they should go, you know, and stop wasting time either way. I think it's just, you know, too much time wasting, really. And I think that sexuals need to be a lot more open-minded. I think it will help them. What is the point in pursuing someone who doesn't want sex with them because of their gender or sexuality or both? It's just ridiculous. It's a waste of time for them and waste of time for whoever's on the receiving end. You know, if sexuals love sex, there are plenty of other people out there that are heterosexual that do love sex. Why pursue asexuals or someone who doesn't want it? It's crazy, but they do. You know, it's like I've said to guys before, like sexual guys approach me, I'm like, it's easy to get sex. I get offered it all the time. Why don't you just go and get it? Why are you talking to me when I've told you I don't want sex? You know what I mean? It's like ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. I think they think because you're different, it's kind of a novelty for them. They want to see you as a challenge and they want to break you and stuff. I've seen some stuff, horrible stuff, where they like to break women, as in like make them, like persuade them, push them to have sex. Because it's disgusting. It's abuse. It's horrible. You know, I have no problem people having sex in a loving, healthy, happy dating or relationship scenario, whatever they want to do, as long as it's consensual and they you know, they both want to do that. Not a guy breaking a woman. It's horrible. No one should be trying to break any gender. It's disgusting. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, Megan. You know, you know, I think it's difficult. For me personally, the worst thing is the dating relationships, because I really would love to be in a romantic relationship, but sexual guys, they just all need sex. The ones I come across, you know, they can't live without that. They could live without it for a short time, but they'd probably be seeing someone else behind my back. You know what I mean? They'd be cheating on me. So, Megan, the guys that sleep with other guys but don't identify as gay, yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird, but it does happen. Yeah. Guys that sleep with other guys but don't identify as gay, it's kind of like it's because they desire the sex so much they just will do it with anyone, basically. So yeah, it's kind of weird. To me, that's strange, but it does happen. Yeah. And the heterosexual guy I dated a few years ago, he told me about that in the car, but I'd already heard of it somewhere else anyway. But I was thinking to myself, have you done that then? Wouldn't surprise me that he had, because he's a very highly sexual guy. He wasn't a very good guy at all. But yeah, so, but yeah, I think it's really difficult. Shall I see if there's one more story we can do before I go? Let's see. Oh yes, so this is Stevens. This is very brief though. How difficult is it for you to be asexual in a sexualized world? Used to be very difficult, but now I have a great relationship and life is much easier. Now, Stephen's story, I remember Stephen, and Stephen is in a relationship. So Stephen is like, yes, it's a wonderful relationship, very little kissing and even a little sex. I do what I have to do to keep the relationship. If I enjoy being with her, I do whatever it takes to make her happy, but I try not to think about it. So Stephen is asexual, but is having sex in the relationship because he wants to keep her happy, you know, and I think that's up to the individual if they want to do that, you know. But when he says, but I try not to think about it, I think that's the crux of the matter. If there's an asexual that is having sex, a lot of the time the asexual is kind of thinking about other things. You know what I mean? They're not focusing on the sex because it's not really important to them and something they really want to do. You know what I mean? But yeah, this guy said it used to be difficult, but now they have a great relationship. It's much easier, but their relationship is with a sexual person, not with an asexual person. But, you know, some asexuals are okay with that, you know. Some asexuals are okay to have sex in a relationship, you know. For me, you know, I always used to think I was heterosexual for years, but I knew that I didn't like sex. I wasn't really into sex, and that I thought was heterosexual, just didn't like sex because I didn't know any different. And I thought my high arousal levels meant I had sexual attraction. I didn't know I had high arousal levels till I found out I was asexual. I didn't know. And then I realised that looking back that, you know, I've never experienced sexual attraction in my life. So that was very, very much a revelation for me. It's like, wow, you know. So I think it's difficult when you grow up in such a sexualized world because if you are different, you don't understand that there's anyone like you. I literally thought I was the only one in the world, planet, and universe that doesn't want sex, need sex, or to be happy in a relationship, and don't even think about that. I never thought about that when I was a teenager. All I thought about was holding a guy's hand and kissing him and talking to him. That's all I thought about. Didn't think about sexual stuff. Never entered my head. I remember I fancied this guy who was a bit older than me in school, and I used to walk to see my grandma at the time. She's not on planet Earth anymore, and this guy used to live not far from her, and I just used to take a walk to the local shop and think about him, thinking, oh, maybe I'll bump into him, and think about, oh, it'd be nice if I held his hand and kissed him, you know. But that's all I thought. I didn't think about anything else, you know. And when you grow up, you don't know that there's any other, you know, identity apart from asexual identity. You don't know about asexuality, you know. And so it's like you always think that, you know, that you're alone, there's no one else like you in the world. That is this what people really enjoy and like? Sex? Like, really? Why? You know what I mean? It's kind of like when I had sex before, I'd rather do the kissing. I've always preferred the kissing. But it's kind of like because the guy used to do that with me, it's like then he wants the sex, but it's like, oh, well, okay, you've done that for me, then let's do this for you type thing. But yeah, I just can't bring myself to do that anymore. It's not something I look forward to doing or want to do, and it's not something I physically feel I can do anymore because I just too tense about it. Anyway, I think I'm going to love you and leave you for now. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I want to thank you, Megan, so much for taking part in tonight's live stream. You've been an absolute treasure. I love hearing your opinions and views. I relate to them quite a lot, so that's why it's really nice to hear someone else who's asexual speak as well. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, you know, that I've got someone else to relate to. And thank you, Piyush and Tabitha, who I know is going to watch the replay. And thank you to Wolf of Fire as well. You know, lots of love to you. And I'll be doing another live stream tomorrow, probably, or much later on tonight. I'm tending to go over the midnight at the moment because I'm busy doing some work. But yes, I'll be back with another Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month video. Megan the Curse, it's good that I can listen to you. Oh, bless your heart. Yeah, I really love talking to you. It's really nice. It's nice, isn't it, when you've got other people around you that you can identify with. I think that's one of the major good things about, you know, like if you do live in a high sexualized world, if you've got other asexuals to talk to, even if it's just virtually, it really does help. It helps me loads, because it's like, thank God someone understands me. Thank goodness someone gets me. Thank goodness someone thinks the same way as me and understands me. Do you know what I mean? I never had that years ago. So now I cherish every moment that I can relate to another asexual person. It's just amazing. Definitely makes me feel not alone anymore. Oh, that's so good, Megan. That's so good. I think it's really important as well, especially when the world's still a bit chaotic at the moment, you know, when I'm recording this in July 2020, you know. I think the world's in a bit of chaos still at the moment. So I think it's good, you know, when we can relate to each other, we can be here for each other. And it's like whatever's happening on the outside world, it's all a bit crazy. But at least, you know, we don't feel so alone. I think that's the beauty of finding other asexuals, even if they're online and you can't necessarily see them in person. It does help. I know it helps me tremendously. I feel so happy. I feel like I'm in my, obviously this is my bedroom, which I have a studio flat, which is pretty much my lounge anyway. I don't have a separate lounge, so like my bedroom's like my lounge as well. And it kind of like feels in my lounge, like with all of the asexuals, and it just feels like so comfortable. It feels like it's my home, and I feel like so cherished and appreciated, which is really nice. And I feel like I really understand a lot of you, and it's so good, you know, like when, like years ago when I thought there was no one else like me in the world, planet, and universe, I remember how difficult that was. How, like Megan said about being alone, you know, you do feel alone. You feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel misunderstood, really misunderstood. You feel like people just don't get you. You feel like there's something, you do feel like there's something wrong with you sometimes. You're like, because you're like, there's no one else like me, so does that mean there's something wrong with me, you know, because there's no one else like me? But then I can't be wrong if it's right for me. Do you know what I mean? So it can be a bit confusing. You can feel confused, and you can feel like very isolated, and you can't really talk to people because they don't really understand a lot of them. You know, even if they try to understand, unless you're another asexual person, you can't fully understand asexuality because you're not asexual. Do you know what I mean? You just can't think the same way. It's only when you come into contact with another asexual person that you can really understand, because you're the same species, if you like, the same people, you know, the same team, the same tribe. I often think about it like being aliens, as asexuals like are aliens on this planet, and like, you know, like we finding each other all around the world. One day we'll beam up on a spaceship or and be like, bisexuals, I'm off. But then, you know, we've got sexual relatives and sexual family, so we probably would miss them. You know, and there's one thing I'm grateful for, sex, and that is I'm alive. Because if I wasn't alive, then I wouldn't be able to do these shows, and I wouldn't have written my books for asexuals. Well, one book with the second book I'm, you know, 3/4 away through. And you know, and I wouldn't be here. So I have to thank my parents for doing the deed for that. Purple aliens, oh bless you. Yeah, I often feel like we're like we came down to planet Earth at some point, and then we're scattered all over the world, and I've got to find all the asexuals and gather them up. Gather them up to just chat. But yeah, Ace Starship would be cool, you know. It would be so cool, because we are different. We're like we're 1% of the population, but I do think we're special, you know. I think there's nothing wrong with feeling special, you know. Elite 1%. I mean, we do see the world completely different, and I think that's a very good thing. I think it's like a superpower, actually. You know, some people may be, you know, not very nice about it, but I honestly think it's a superpower. I think we have the ability to see things that no one else can see. I mean, there's certain people in this Asexual Perspectives book who say that they, you know, give advice to people on relationships because they can see more clearly than sexuals can. You know, we have that ability to see more clearly usually. Obviously, if you're a hyper romantic like me, you can have your own issues, like, because like being hyper romantic just clouds your judgment sometimes. I'm better than I used to be though, much better. You know, but I think in general, you know, we do look at relationships in a completely different way. And we're very matter of fact. Like when I'm on dating sites, asexual dating sites, I will just say what physical stuff I like and don't like in a relationship. I'll be blunt about it. And it's very matter of fact. When you talk to sexuals about it, it's like they get turned on by it. But if you talk to an asexual person, well, they can still get turned on by me saying it for some reason. Either they're not really asexual or on the very, very sexual end of the asexual spectrum usually. But you know, it's kind of like a lot of the time it is very matter of fact. It's like, well, I like this touching, I like that touching, but I don't like that touching, or I like this kissing but no touching, or I like, you know, like cuddling but I'm not too keen on kissing. You know, it's very matter of fact. It's like you're just reading off statistics. You know what I mean? There's none of this like sexual energy. I'm talking to you about this because I want to like have sex with you. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of more like, you know, like, would this work? Wouldn't it work? Like two jigsaw pieces, would they fit together or not? You know, and that's why we like our ability to see things that a lot of people in the world just can't see. And that is a very, very positive thing. Very positive thing. So anyway, thank you for taking part. Like I said, Megan, you've been absolutely amazing. Thanks to everyone else. I really appreciate you being here. And I'll look forward to the next live stream. So another Asexual Perspectives and Awareness Month live stream. Catch it here. And don't forget to have that bell icon pressed after you've subscribed, if you haven't subscribed already, because the bell icon is when you get notified of me going live. If you've got your YouTube open, it should come up. As long as you've got your YouTube notifications enabled, it should come up on that. Or, you know, you should get an email if you've got your email open or got access to it popping up. You know, then that's how you can tell that I'm on air right now. Anyway, take care. Bye, Megan. Thank you so much. Lots of love to you. Really appreciate you being here. And I'm glad you don't feel alone anymore. It's really important. Really important. I'm so happy about that. And I know you're doing really, really well with your asexuality. I think you're becoming a lot more confident, which I'm really proud of you. So, thank you for the love and the clap. I really appreciate that. See you soon. Embrace your quirking on each other's. Take care. Bye, Megan. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Lots of love. Lots of love. Bye. Thanks for the thumbs up. Bye.